All right, and let's begin. Okay, so what I want to cover tonight is what is your definition of time management, and I think it's important to really think about what you think time management is to you, not to somebody else but to you. We're going to do a very quick exercise, which hopefully, you know, with the traps and the myths of time management, which I'll address, that the exercise will kind of highlight some of those to you. I also want to cover understanding time and the definition of time management. Granted, yes, some of this kind of overlaps, but I think when you do the exercise, I think it also is going to highlight your understanding of time and what the definition of time might be. We're going to address where does your time go, and of course, hopefully at the end, you'll have some strategies that you can use that will increase your time, is what I'm hoping anyways. Okay, so first let's start with a quick exercise, okay? So if you could just, you don't have to raise your hand, just type in the chat area, you know, how do you define time and what does time management mean to you? And again, you only, not what it should be, not what you've read, what does it mean to you? So go right ahead and type. Okay, I'm not talking just because I see people are typing, so that's great. Okay, so Jana says getting it all done. Okay. Time is elusive. I need to find some first, then I can define it better. Okay. That's an interesting perspective. Time for me is setting aside quiet time and focusing on my work. Okay, good. How to balance home, family, and classes to do homework. Good. Organizing specific tasks by priority. And by the way, there's no right or wrong answer here, okay? So feel free, seriously, don't be afraid to put down what you think it is. Time is constant in a realm where everything is always changing. Time management is accomplishing all I need to get done in a day. My time is important, and time is important in meetings. Yes. Yes, and deadlines. Space in my day to be filled by activities. Okay, good. So what do you think the main time traps are for you? Again, you only, not what everybody thinks time traps are, what you think are going to stop you from completing what you need to do. Distractions from phone, yep. Family. What someone else feels is urgent and roadblocks, absolutely. Interruptions and distractions, yep. Your cell phone, Facebook, children, cooking, clients, sleep. Basically life, don't you think? My biggest trap is my 3 kids and pets, distractibility, trying to find time for me as well as everything on my daily schedule, correct. Family. Time can catch up with you and cause stress when trying to meet deadlines, absolutely. All of those are time traps. Okay, so we're going to do now, excellent guys, and thank you very much for participating in this. And it gave you kind of also a perspective of what other students are facing as well. You know, your time traps are going to be different than somebody else's, okay? And your definition is going to be slightly different than somebody else's as well. So the exercise that we're going to do, these are quick. These are really just meant for you to think. That's all it is. And I don't want to spend an awful lot of time here, but I think they're kind of necessary. So here we go. Now, before you do anything, don't do anything yet because I forgot to change the polling. So this is just a poll. Let's see here. Okay. So down below, the check mark and the X changed to letters A, B, C, D, and E. All right. So if you could do poll 1 for me and just select A, B, or C, by just clicking on that letter below the participants window, and it will show up, okay, next to your name. Okay? So the question, poll 1, is do you include travel time on your daily schedule? Okay? Nope. So do you see the letters Jen and Stephanie and Ophelia and Anna? There you go. Just look and see below the participants window, just select a letter. There you go. Perfect. And that'll just show up. Good. All right. Do you guys see those letters? Are the letters not showing up? Maybe not. Okay. Well, I'm just looking. In general, everybody's an A, B. There's a couple C's. Okay. But the majority of you are saying that yes, you do actually include travel in your schedule, which is a good thing, by the way. Okay, good. All right. So now we're going to go. I'm going to clear that out. And then we're going to go to poll 2. And be honest here too, okay? Some people have more leisure time than another person, so it's not bad if you have more leisure time than somebody else. So how much leisure time do you have in a typical day? Okay, good. Okay, so Michael, Deborah, Amia, okay, E, okay, perfect. Anybody else want to answer? Alrighty. Okay, so let me just pull that out there, okay. Does not count. Kelly, I'm not understanding what that means. Does not count? You don't count? Okay. Do you think you can just put an average? What do you think? If not, no big deal. Oh, you already put it down. Okay. So it looks like, oh, let's see here, about 31%, no, okay. About 31% are showing that you have about an hour and a half to 2 hours of leisure time. I know we had some that put down in the chat area that they have 4 hours or more. And then the third runner-up is about 0 to a half hour. Good, okay. These are just meant to make you kind of think, you know, like Kelly, you mentioned that you don't count. That's okay. Typically, you probably have more leisure time than you think. Okay, so poll 3, same thing. How much sleep do you get on average? And again, on average. And I can participate as well. Okay, good. Okay, so it looks like the overwhelming 56% are saying up to 6 hours, and then tied for 6 to 7, 7 to 8 hours. That's great. Okay, good. You know, the sleep means something, so we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so poll 4, do the same exact thing. You know, how much television do you watch in a typical day? And by the way, television can be on your computer too. It doesn't have to be in front of a TV. Just news. Okay. It's okay. Sometimes we have to watch TV just to kind of, you know, not think, believe it or not. Okay, so C. So it looks like an hour and a half to 2 hours is the first. And then the second, it looks like 0 to a half hour, and then the rest are tied. Okay, good. Okay, good. And then we have two more polls, and then we're done. So how much time is spent on Facebook or other social media sites? Now, I don't mean for business either, by the way. Okay, Michael, I do the same thing, by the way. I got the TV on while I'm doing other things. So that's kind of a good thing, too. You know, you get that at the same time, but you're still being productive. Of which, you know, we'll talk about multitasking, but in that case, it might not necessarily be multitasking. I don't count the time that you're on Facebook if you are actually on Facebook or other social media sites for business. Okay, for instance, I'm on Facebook for business, you know, for the school. Otherwise, I don't count that. So don't count that. Okay, good. Okay, so it looks like, okay, about a half hour, 0 to a half hour, and then none. Oh, fascinating. Okay. Alrighty. And then lastly, how much time is spent on using your phone, texting in a typical day? Again, not business related, okay, just personal. if you have kids like mine, it seems like I'm on the phone all the time, answering text messages and phone calls. Okay, so it looks like none. So nobody's on their phone? Let me see here. So that's 25%, and then the other 25% is 1.5 to 2 hours, and then after that is 0 to ½ hour. Okay. You guys are good if that's the case. Alrighty. So, okay, Terry, so why do we do all these polls? Well, the reason being is because those are, in some cases, time traps. All right. So insufficient sleep, you wouldn't think, would be a time trap, but it in fact is. When you don't get enough sleep, you don't function properly. And a lot of studies, we can get into the studies and this and that. We could say, I don't have that much, time to actually sleep. Believe it or not, it is important that you sleep. Okay. It rejuvenates the body. It allows you to think clearly. Okay, and that will help with your studies, and believe it or not, you'll save time, all right? Trying to keep yourself awake and not really comprehending what you're reading or possibly writing in a discussion post can impact your grades, and you might actually have to redo that again, and you don't want to do that. So think about your sleep. If you think you could use more sleep, see if you can actually figure out how to get more sleep. All right, the second thing is the technology. Even though technology is supposed to make our lives easier, supposed to make us more efficient, in some cases that it has not. It actually has made us unproductive, too many distractions. So television, I understand the television part because I think after a hard day, maybe you kind of need a break and you just want someone talking to you and you don't want to really even think about it, because think about it, TV is kind of garbage in some respects, so you can look at it and not think very much. Is good, but if it's an excessive amount, then it does become a time trap. Internet can become time traps, okay, and your actual phone. I don't know if you guys remember, but we never had these phones before, and so think about that time that we had, compared to now. Now we're just reachable all the time, and which is kind of really ridiculous when you think about it. So that sucks up our time. Procrastinating, okay, comes in many, many, many forms. And then multitasking. Multitasking, even though I'm a wicked multitasker, really a bad time trap, you can waste time. I think there are certain times when multitasking is imperative, all right, otherwise you won't get anything done. Go ahead, type in your comment or question. But you really need to be careful with the multitasking. If you're never completing anything and you're starting all these things, you never complete them, that's a problem. And I think that's what they're really addressing. All right, so I'll wait till you make your question or comment before I move on. And if anybody has any comments about these time traps, okay, why do you think multitasking is not good? Well, multitasking is not good when you're not completing the actual project or the assignment, say for instance, okay, when you're supposed to. When you are not really focusing on what you're doing at hand. So for instance, okay, if you are supposed to do an assignment, it's supposed to be due X, okay, and you start it a little bit and then you move on to the next one and start the another assignment, and then you move on to the next assignment, but then you got to come back to the first one, okay, you're really not focused. You might actually have to review some of the assignments, some of the things that you wrote, so you're spending time getting yourself back up to speed to complete that particular or that original project. So if you do that all the time, you're going to actually find that you're spending more time, believe it or not. Anna says, I seem to start something and not finish. I tend to start different things, but I know as I do not complete. At least you're recognizing that, and if you're in fact recognizing that, then you have to say stop, okay? Don't do that. Finish something, okay, first. Or at least finish it to the point where, like for instance, an assignment, break it down in blocks and say, okay, I'm going to finish this first block. At least you finished it. With multiple courses, you have to do that. It's really just managing and balancing that. But what you don't want to do is just keep jumping from one thing to the next and really stopping midway between something and then jumping. Then all work is only okay rather than, yes, correct, Kelly. Well, multitasking is not for college work. Is that it? Not necessarily, okay? I think you're misreading what I mean by multitasking, okay? I think like again, maybe I'll make it clear as we move forward, but don't confuse balancing, okay, 3 courses with multitasking. You obviously have to balance the work in all 3 of those courses. What I'm saying is that if you keep jumping and not finishing parts of assignment just because maybe you're bored or because, if you're stuck and you really need to take a break, that's a different story. But if you're jumping and you're never completing something, that's what I mean. Yeah, that makes sense, but let me ask you something, Amelia, okay? I mean, when you're multitasking, like for instance, you can cook because something is continuing to cooking, you're cooking pasta, say for instance. Well, you got to wait for the water to boil, all right? So in the meantime, while you're waiting for the water to boil, you can put a load of laundry in, okay? That's fine. You're still completing. Eventually you're going to complete the cooking, correct? All right? So don't apply that the same way with college work, okay? Does that make any sense? Okay, good. It'd be different if you've got, 3 washing machines and you start the washing machine, all 3 of them, but you never complete them. You stop them midway. You literally go in and stop them. We're going to talk about the best way to break up assignments, okay? So let me move forward a little bit on that, and hopefully I can answer it. Hopefully some of these things will answer your question. If not, I will make sure that we do come back to that, okay, if we don't. Just remind me. Okay, so myths, okay? And again, we all have said these things. I've said it, people I work with say it, my friends say it, my husband says it, there's too much to do, I can't handle it, all right? Well, that's really not true. They're really procrastination, okay? It's not that there's too many things to do. It's just that you're not really prioritizing it, okay? You're not organizing it, all right? And it might be that you actually have to, it might be true that you have too much to do. It might be that something has to be dropped. Number 2 is the opposite. There's plenty of time, I can do that later. Well, not really, okay? It pretty much, how much is your time really worth and how much of it is there, all right? You really need to look at that. Most likely you don't have plenty of time and all you're doing is procrastinating something you're supposed to be doing in the first place. Number 3, I'm busier than usual, so it makes sense to shift some tasks off to another time. Now, that could be true, quite honestly, all right? It could be that, you're reprioritizing and I really need to shift some things off, okay, because I really need to get this assignment. Okay, that's fine. Where this becomes a problem is when you keep shifting things, okay, and you're not really addressing it. That's a different issue, okay? And number 4, in some respects, is the same thing, okay? Rescheduling something. And again, sometimes you have to do that because you're reprioritizing, that's fine. And rescheduling, if you're rescheduling it but you're really not scheduling it, or if in fact you keep rescheduling it multiple times, you really need to ask yourself if it's a priority and if you really need to do that, because that is just a waste of time. Okay, so for instance, I'll just give you a perfect example. Actually, well, I think it'll apply to number 5 better. This little task, well, let me see here, hold on. Yeah, number 5, this will apply, okay? This little task is not important. I'll give you an example of, I work for a manufacturing company, and one of the things as a manager, you always had to look at time, how you can improve efficiencies, because obviously it's the bottom line, and if it takes you longer to complete something, that hits your profit line. So if you've got somebody, manufacturing or touching something 10 times, that's a lot. What you want to say, okay, can I touch it 5 times? Do you have to touch it 5 times? So perfect example, I've got children, all right, or even people, when I worked in manufacturing, if you got to touch it 5 times and you still haven't really done anything with it, okay, why are you touching it 5 times? So it's obviously important to touch it the first time, so then you really should complete it. Okay, so like for instance, my children, and I'm sure, if you have children, you understand this, well, okay, pick up your shoes and please put them, in the closet. Well, okay, so they pick them up and they don't exactly make it to the closet, but it makes it halfway there. Well, guess what? They have to pick them up again, and sometimes it makes it there, and sometimes it makes it 3/4 of the way. And by the third time, they've touched it again. So they've wasted they wasted their time. Right, exactly. So look at it also from your schoolwork, okay? How many times are you going to touch something, okay? You know, and just keep that in the back of your mind as we go forward. Those are all time wasters, by the way. Okay. Any questions about that? Alrighty. So what exactly do we mean by time management? And a lot of you already, stated this, but it's really defined as how you organize, prioritize, and in the end succeed, okay? So if you do organize and you do prioritize, you will succeed, whatever your goal is. Okay, and of course, when you have all your friends, work, family, school, and other things competing for your time, okay, that's when time management is really very, very important, okay? You have to set limits, okay? Somebody mentioned distractions from family and friends and work. Well, sometimes you have to set limits, okay? And you have to prioritize. You all are here today, and you're at Empire State College because it's a priority that you return back to college, okay, and complete whatever your goal is that you've put out there. And so it's a priority. And so you need to make sure that you organize your life in order to meet that priority so you can succeed. All right, so my little comment here is, you need to work smarter, not harder, and not do more just to do. Take control of your schedule where you can and promote quality time. And I know that's very difficult. It's not that easy. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. I want you to think about this too, by the way. Time management does not just happen, okay? You need to schedule it. You at least need to map it, all right? You also have to realize that not everybody's available time is the same. Everybody's available time is different. And so one of the glories or the nice thing about online is it does give you that flexibility versus driving to a classroom and you have to be there from this time to this time, all right? Online environment allows you the flexibility to work in your comfort zone most of the time. Sometimes you're not going to be able to work in your comfort zone, but if you're a morning time person and you have that time, wonderful, then you can work and do your work during that time. If you're a nighttime person, perfect. So just realize that, not everybody's time is the same, all right? And work within what your comfort zone is and what you think is your best time to do your work. And I do another workshop, by the way, about learning styles, and hopefully you guys did the learning style exercise and the orientation, and you kind of learned a little about what your learning style is. And I'm not going to get into that because that's, like I said, that's another workshop. Okay, so the other thing too is individuals look at time differently depending on the culture, okay? And so, that's something just to realize and understand. You might have a culture where, eating is at a certain time, but maybe that might be your priority, or at least your time that you're the best at. You need to balance that. Kelly mentions, how do you figure out your most productive time? We're going to talk, let's talk about that afterwards, okay, because that's something we learn, we talk about in learning styles, but if we have time, I want to address that. All right, so I made a note, Kelly, okay? Again, I say time varies from person to person, day to day. You might have time available today, like tonight, from 6 to 7, but tomorrow night you might not, all right, but depending on your priorities. And then individuals are more productive at certain times of the day. Well, maybe we can address that a little bit, Kelly. Kelly, my guess is that you have at least do you have an idea of when the best time is for you? When are you most alert? When do you think you're most productive? Like, for instance, I know for me, I'm up at, and I know this is a little strange and odd, but I'm up at 3:45 every morning, okay? Because I'm a morning person, and I'm on the road at 5 o'clock running, and then I'm back home, and then I'm at work at 7:30. But by the time 2 o'clock comes around, I'm beat because I am not an afternoon person, and let alone a nighttime person. Okay, so I know when my best time is to work, where I'm at my peak. So I'm assuming that you guys have at least some idea of when your best time is to be productive. And if not, then that's where we need to maybe review that a little bit, and you can attend the learning style webinar, and then I do one for study skills as well. Okay? So Kelly, did that help a little bit? I mean, are you a morning person, afternoon person, evening person? Or do you have no time? I mean, some people might not necessarily have a time. I see you're typing, so I'll wait. Mid-morning. Okay. So, you know, I don't know if you work. Mid-morning might not be the time that you can do some of your work for school. But maybe mid-morning could be, I don't know, could you shift your lunch time to mid-morning and then work through lunchtime? And mid-morning, maybe you can, during lunchtime, you can actually do some of your work. Okay, yeah. So you're a morning person, up at 7 a.m., 6 p.m. Yeah, I'm getting beat. Exactly. I mean, that's a long day, believe it or not. I mean, that's a very, very long day. Yeah, so work takes up your day. Right. So then, Kelly, then maybe, you know, what is your second, you know, maybe you have to, you know, if you can't shift your lunch to maybe mid-morning, you know, is there another time where you think you could be a little bit more productive, okay? You know, mid-morning would be what time? 9, 10, 11 o'clock? Okay, so maybe what you can do is see if you can shift your, like I said, your lunch or a break or something at that time, and schedule something that you know you can do during that time that might require, you know, a lot of your attention when it comes to some of your schoolwork. All right. You might not be able to. That's all right. Half hour, you know, if you can manage it. If you can't, then you got to come up with another time that might work for you. So you work 10-hour days, but I get an hour break, which I use. The local library I work, have online classes, makes it easy. Very good. Absolutely. And Bonnie says I can study from midnight to 3 a.m. on my nights off since I'm used to being up during the night when I work. Great. So if that works for you, that's great. Sometimes our peak times we can't work. So for instance, when I was going to school and I'm going now to graduate school, I cannot work in the morning time even though that's my peak time. And so I really have to, because I work obviously. So what I do is I, you know, during my lunch time, I try to do some things that I know doesn't require an enormous amount of focus. I might work on my schedules and stuff like that. I might do an outline, whatever it might be, or I might read something, knowing that I'm going to have to do it at nighttime. You know, unfortunately not my best time, but, you know, I work around it. Great. Okay. Alrighty. So let's talk about this a little bit. The key here, by the way, with this particular slide is I don't care what tool you use to manage your time, just use something, okay? So a physical calendar, you know, your smartphone, a desk calendar, just be consistent about it and make sure that you're capturing the important information that's on there and review it constantly, okay? I can't stress that enough. If you're going to do all of this work and never look at it, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever to even put the effort into it. So for instance, you know, and again, there's no right or wrong way, and I'm going to show you a tool here that you can use. And the one thing here with this tool is tools can also be time traps. So if you're finding that you're using this tool and it's taking up an enormous amount of time, don't use it, okay? You want to use something that is going to work for you. You want to use it consistently so it becomes a habit, all right? So some of the suggestions I make to students is, first and foremost, okay, you've got your courses. You're taking 2 or 3 courses, whatever it might be, okay? Do you print off the syllabus and print off the schedule? All right, so now you have the schedule. What are you going to do with that schedule? Well, a couple students have put them in binders, okay, and so they have 3 courses in each binder. The first page is the schedule, all right, and they review those schedules. Basically those binders go with them everywhere, and they review those schedules. Some review them every day, sometimes they review them every other day. Some students actually take those schedules and create a calendar, and they use an actual physical calendar and write in all that information. I have some students that use spreadsheets actually and put it on a spreadsheet, and once they complete something, that column goes away, okay? And then all they're looking at is things forward. And so what that does is it gives the student the what's the word I'm looking for? That, oh my gosh, I completed something, okay? I don't have to look at it anymore. I completed all those assignments. I can move forward, all right? It's important, okay? You have these little, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? But goals that you're meeting, okay? It feels really, really good, all right? So, right, thank you. Feeling of accomplishment. See, not my best time tonight, nighttime. So yes, a feeling of accomplishment, okay, instead of continuing to look at the schedule and nothing is moving. So whatever you use, again, okay, like Kelly meant, just use one, pick one, okay. So let me just show you, I'm going to pull something up because I really thought this is an interesting tool, and only use it if in fact you think it is useful. So just give me a minute while I type this in. I should have just copied it, but I didn't get a chance to do that. Okay, so this is an assignment catalog or a calculator, and it can help a little bit with the planning process because I think sometimes it's hard just to get started. Where do I start? What am I supposed to do? So for instance, you know, if you've got an assignment, okay, that you're going to begin, say, today, and you know it's due, you know, 2 weeks from now, or whatever, I'll just put, oops, oh my goodness, 07, okay. So what it does is it basically plans out how you're going to attack that assignment. So first and foremost, understanding your assignment. Believe it or not, that is very important. You know, if you read it and you don't understand it, don't start it. Make sure you understand it. If you don't understand it, email your instructor and say, I don't understand what you're asking. I'm reading it this way. Is that correct? Okay? So make sure that. So, and then it goes through to make sure that you've identified what the citation style is. Okay, that's extremely important. Okay, so Kelly, we can use UM? Yes, you can. Absolutely. Okay. Anything else that is expected regarding, you know, academic honesty, integrity, so on and so forth. It's important that you cite your stuff. So that's step one. Then step two, you know, start the writing process. Well, what does that mean? So it just goes through that. Okay, so I would just say, like I said, I'm going to push it out to you. Okay, there is the link. All right, I just put it in the chat area. If you guys want to, that's University of Maryland. Okay, that's what UM is. There's no reason why you can't use the tools that are available out there, by the way. And by the way, you can print this as well, and you can follow it to a certain degree. All right. But don't get too bogged down with this, but this is a very good start, okay? And there's lots of other tools out there that you can use, okay? So like I said, I just pushed out the link, okay? I would bookmark it, use it, and see if it works. But as you can see, it just goes through, you know, writing work thesis, designing research strategy. There's a bunch of stuff here, okay? And this is really nice. Design research strategy. It gives you some information about designing a research strategy, okay? Identifying and selecting research resource. So with this particular tool, it's giving you other resources too, by the way. All right. So I'm not going to really go, you know, too much into this. Personally, count the hours in your day, count the hours in the week, rate your procrastination. You can do that if you like. There are a variety of assessment tools to do that. I actually did this when I was a manager. I actually tracked all the information, you know, developed a database to put this in and came up with, you know, this, whatever, you know, this amount of hours are being placed here and there and there. It's good to do initially. I don't know if I would do that constantly, all right? I would try to be honest with yourself where your time is being spent versus going through, you know, a variety of assessment tools. But if you feel it's necessary, then do that, okay? The same thing with the to-do lists and the calculator, all right? So I'm not going to beat this one to death. The bottom line is just pick one, make sure you use it, practice it, then it becomes a habit, and you'll be better off going forward, I promise you. Okay. Alrighty, so alrighty. Just one more thing about the calendar too, by the way, your schedules. The good thing about having a schedule that's visual, whatever it might be, it allows you to plan. All right, so if you look at your schedule, you know what you need to actually start and when you need to finish. And you're also going to see the conflicts as well. And then the other thing too is from your other commitments, you're going to see where there is conflicts. You know, I got a party to go to. It's my grandmother's 50th or 60th or 70th, 80th, anniversary. I have this due. You might have to say, well, geez, I'll go to that late. So that's the reason for the calendar. Okay. What to do if your work schedule is constantly changing? Often I schedule time but then end up working and lose that time. Well, if you know it changes, I think you're just going to have to be flexible, and I think that's the good thing about having a visual calendar of your schedule, of your assignments. I think that helps you plan. So if your schedule changes and you have an assignment, it just changed, maybe in your schedule you can fit in some time because now some other open time, opened up for you because of your schedule. Okay, I know that can be difficult. I would just say try to do the best you can and look at those opportunities. The other thing too, I might have to say, I don't know what your outside commitments are outside of work and school, but there might be some other things you have to drop or you have to maybe reduce, I should say. Maybe not necessarily stop doing, but maybe you can temporarily stop doing some of those activities in order to do some of the work. So it all depends on how you want to work that schedule. Okay, so strategies for using your time wisely, all right? So somebody asked earlier, okay, about, how do you create the blocks in the time, blocks of time and breaks? So how much time can you spend studying, preparing? Well, make sure they're small blocks because if you're studying for like an hour, hour and a half, and 2 hours, believe it or not, you're not probably comprehending what you should be. So studying could be 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and then go take a break. Make sure your breaks count, okay, re-energize, that's why you want that break. And then of course always return after a short break. So somebody mentioned, why is multitasking bad? Let's just say you have blocked out a certain amount of time to study and prepare for this class, this particular class. And you need a break, and you go take that break, and next thing you know it, you're into something else, and then you're into something else, and then you pop back, okay, to finish what you started, and then you go take a break again, and you go, you're wasting time there, all right? That would be kind of multitasking if you have all those things you're doing. You need to really focus and get done. If you've blocked out 45 minutes to study, make sure you do that, okay? And then, of course, we've already talked about this. Use a calendar to manage your time. Okay, so working in college work is difficult, especially if you have young children. It is. And I might be able to give you, I had, when I finished my bachelor's, let me see here. My kids were 5 and 9, 8. And so I can tell you some of the things I did. All right, we can talk about that afterwards. But it is difficult because they take up your time and they need you as well. They also, I know my children, I explain to my children, how this is important and this is why it's important and mommy needs to do this, but when I'm done we can do this. So we can talk about that afterwards. We talked about this too. Make sure you have time to sleep and eat properly. We talked about that as being a time trap. If you're not getting enough sleep, okay, eating properly, it does affect your ability to perform. Granted, we all have done it where we've gotten 4 hours of sleep, okay, 5 hours of sleep, we're not really eating well, and we have to plug through the day. I'm not saying that you have to do that constantly. Things do happen, okay, but in an ideal world, hopefully we get enough sleep and we eat properly, so therefore we can, perform the tasks that we are expected, okay? And then try to combine activities. Now, this is not multitasking. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. So when I mean combine, okay, activities, what I mean is bring your psychology notes, okay, or your stat notes or whatever it might be while you're waiting on your laundry or you're waiting to start your next class. You're sitting in the doctor's office and you got nothing but time, okay, because they're never on time. So you can sit there and maybe review your schedule, say for instance, and readjust and reprioritize, or make an outline, or maybe you have some time to actually read that last couple pages that you didn't get a chance to. The other thing too is, I know I used to wait at the bus stop, okay, so I leave work, I'm waiting at the bus stop, I have a couple, 15 minutes, sometimes the bus was late, so my kids play sports. I go to their practice, okay? So an hour and a half, 2 hours of practice. Well, what am I going to do? I'm going to do my work. So look at those opportunities if you can. You're still getting your kids where they need to be, right? All right? And you're still doing what you need to do. All right, and if you've got a young one that has to come to practice, make sure you bring something to occupy that child. Or you can give them something that might help you out. Like, by the way, I need these index cards. You want to help me write these out? Because you're still studying. So try to come up with, creative ways where you can actually, capitalize on the time that's given to you. All right. You have to be creative. I know it's hard sometimes. Sometimes you just want that time for downtime, and you might actually have to take that. Okay. So I just want to make sure. The one thing I do want to make a point about the blocking at the time, let me go back, is where you actually spend that time. Sometimes we can't pick our ideal spot to do the studying and the reading. So try to come up with a secondary place. And sometimes you just don't really have a choice. So if in fact you're reading something that's really very, very difficult to read, you probably don't want to do it while you're at a basketball game, or you're in the kitchen and everybody's in the kitchen. You might need an actual quiet time, quiet space, okay? And that might be the library, or it might be outside, it might be somewhere, okay? So just think about that. Yes, you can give those scientific journals to read. There you go. They'll surely go to sleep, Kelly. Alrighty. Any questions about that? As a matter of fact, that's a perfect segue into the study space. Oh, well then something, Kelly. Here's a suggestion. Okay. You could come up with spaces, and maybe make this a game with your children that this is their space and they can create their little space. And by the way, Mommy has her little space, okay? When Mommy's in her space, Mommy needs some quiet time. And, when you're over in your space, Mommy's going to give you quiet time. So I don't know if that works, but it might be something you could try. Okay, so this is where we talk about study space. Select a space that's conducive to your learning style, and always have an alternative space just in case. Oh, okay, so your kids are 20, but my computer is in between the kitchen and living room. Well, then hopefully your 20-year-olds do understand, okay, that little time that you might need, right? The other thing, too, is you could maybe get them to help you with the studying. That might be a challenge. Okay, I challenge you. And then a weekly review, okay? Always know what's coming up for the week, okay? We talked about this. I hate to beat this, but it's really, really important. If you're not knowing what's going on, you can't prepare. So by continually, looking at your week and the upcoming week, it will prepare you, and you won't be stressed. Less anxiety, I promise you. Okay, if necessary, review your schedule every other day. Okay, select a time when it's best to review your schedule. Make sure you understand what you need to do. Okay, sometimes we think we know what we need to do, but not really. When we start looking at it, we realize we missed something. So that's why it's really important to look at it, and then you can adjust your calendar. Okay, just like when you get into assignment, you think you know that you think it was going to take you X amount of time, but as you get into it a little bit more, you kind of missed a couple points and you realize it's going to take you a lot longer. When you need to go back to your schedule, okay, and readjust it, okay, for that time. It sounds like a lot of work, but again, if it becomes a habit, it does get easier. Okay. All right, prioritizing. I'm not going to kill this one to death, but prioritizing is important. Okay. There's lots of ways that you can, apply prioritizing, but always begin with a subject assignment that causes you the most problems. Okay, I can't stress this enough. The reason being, okay, is that if you keep procrastinating and doing the most difficult, you probably will never get it done. All right, and so if you start on the one that is just giving you the hardest time, if you just break it down just a little bit and accomplish a little of it, it will give you great relief. okay? It will say, okay, I can do this. I feel a little bit better because you started it, all right? Then you can move on to the other subjects or the assignments that are a little bit easier for you, all right? Of course, make a list and prioritize. And don't go hog wild with this list and prioritize. Just, again, short lists that are accomplishable, okay? If you make these long lists, that's going to stress you out as well, all right? So just focus on, you know, those assignments that are due and not anything else unless you really have to, depending on the course. And make sure to build in reaction time, by the way, because sometimes things happen, as you know, and you thought you had this much amount of time, and now something else has come up, and oh my gosh, I'm squeezed for that. So try to come up with something, okay, some way to build in a little cushion time. All right. So go right ahead of me. You can make your comment. I'm just going to read some of the other things here. What are some ways to keep focus on boring assignments? I understand. Kelly, the best way, quite honestly, is come up with a way to make it more interesting. Maybe read it out loud. You know, talk to somebody about it. You know, maybe it's really not that boring. You're just thinking it's boring, okay? Or, you know, don't spend an awful lot of time. Do it in very small blocks, okay, so you don't get bored quickly. It's not better to just do the ones that are quick and easy first. No, it's not. You know, based on all the research, it really is the best thing to do the most difficult first, okay? Because then you can at least, most likely the most difficult is probably going to use more of your time, okay? And you're probably going to miss a couple things in there, and you're probably going to need a little bit more time to actually prepare. You might actually need more time to go in and seek some help. So if you can identify those in the beginning first, you know, right on, then you'll find, believe it or not, that you'll probably get through that difficult subject easier and smoother than if you waited to the end, because waiting to the end is only going to cause you more stress and anxiety, okay? All right, they're all due. They are all due that part of the problem. So they're all due at the same time? They're all due. If you mean that they're due all at the same time, then again you have to prioritize, okay, and go back and say, okay, this is the most difficult subject. This is what I need to do for this assignment. This is what I need to do for this assignment, and this is what I need to do for this assignment. And maybe, you know, spend one day doing a little of this and completing a certain amount for one assignment and move on to the next, and then just repeat, okay? Reaction time is that if you've built in 15, let's just say you've built in an hour to do some reading, okay, and it actually is going to take you longer. That's what that means, that you realize it's going to take you longer. I guess that's what I mean by reaction time. Or, you know, something comes along and you have to react to it and you really need to drop that. So sometimes, I call it cushion time, is what I call it. I do read it to the, okay, good. Get the worst out of the way, yes. However, some things what you thought was easy can turn out to be much worse. They can be, all right? In that case, then you have to regroup. Okay, the second strategy is just make sure that you start. Just get something done, okay? If you keep, you know, we talked about this procrastination. You know, if you start something, you know, you feel a little bit better because you started it, and you feel that stress kind of, you know, and once you get into it, then you realize maybe this is not so bad, okay? And at least, you know, you might realize there are things you didn't plan for. If you don't start it, you're not going to know, all right? And sometimes, as Kelly mentioned, okay, you know, details are not always evident, and the only way you're going to find that out is if you start it. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to students that, you know, start, let's say, for instance, statistics, and that first module, the second module, they're already, I'm done, okay? Well, you know something, it does get easier as time goes on. However, if you don't do the work for the first and the second module, all those other modules are going to be very difficult. You have to start. You have to start somewhere, I guess is what I'm saying. Create a rough draft. Believe it or not, okay, this sounds easy, but a lot of students don't create a rough draft. Okay, you can always edit it. We have computers, so just start. Don't fall into the perfection trap, all right? Just start typing, jotting, putting everything down that you think, okay, you might want to place in your paper, all right? You can always delete it, Okay, I can tell you a strategy that I used, and doesn't necessarily mean that exactly brainstorming. I would read an assignment, okay, and jot down what I think I know about the subject. I would jot down a bunch of questions, and then I would jot down basically how I wanted to approach that particular assignment. And then I go, and there's reading strategies we can talk about later, but then what I would do is as I'm reading, okay, I would have my either I have a notebook with me or I have my laptop with me, and I would just jot down some comment, something, whatever, and then the page number of that particular textbook and where and what the source was. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of creating all these thoughts, okay, of how I'm going to address the assignment. I'm also capturing the source of the information, okay, so that's going to create your list of your sources, your citing, okay, anything that you're citing, and the page number. So I'm doing a couple things. Yes, and you can highlight and underline, works well as well. So I guess what I'm saying is that, you know, you're creating a document that you can always edit later. So try that strategy. Then, of course, postponing unnecessary activities until your work is finished. I mean, laundry, cleaning up dishes, whatever it might be. This can be done after you've accomplished something, you know, for school. Those dishes will be there at 11 o'clock at night, okay? If you've got the time to go and spend from, you know, 8 to 9 or 8 to 9:30 or whatever, do that, okay, if you're in that mode, and then go do the dishes. But doing the dishes because you really don't want to do the work is procrastinating, okay? So think about it that way. And then, of course, resources. Make sure you have identified all the resources. So what this means is that identifying resources early on, okay, prepares you, saves time so you don't have to search for those resources. And what I mean by resources, I don't mean resources to write your paper necessarily, but what I mean by, do you need a tutor? Do you know where the library is? Do you know where you can seek writing help? Okay. You don't have to do these things by yourself. If you know where to find, okay, our online library, you just saved yourself some time. If you were not prepared and you don't know where these resources are, you're going to be fumbling around and you're going to be wasting that time. So a little prep work goes a long way for saving time, believe it or not. Okay, so outlining the assignment is good. It takes you step by step. Yes, it does. So I guess the bottom line is here is you don't give up. Okay, use the tools to manage your time. This is basically saying don't use tools that you're uncomfortable with and that requires too much of your time and a very, you know, steep learning curve. If it takes an enormous amount of time to understand and, you know, you've already spent 3 days on it, it's not the right tool. Move on, find something else, okay? There is no wrong tool. Again, whatever works for you. Make sure you understand your traps, okay? If in fact, you know, you love to sleep 10, 11 hours, do you really need to sleep 10, 11 hours, right? Do you only get 4 hours of sleep, you know, when really you should be getting 8 hours of sleep? You know, are you always on the internet doing, you know, these things? Understand your traps is basically what I'm saying. Use the strategies that work for you and add new ones as you see fit, okay? Because sometimes, you know, you might come across something, ooh, that would really work, let me try it. Stick to it long enough, okay? You really need to stick to it. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in 1 week. It might take you a couple weeks to actually get comfortable with it if you're not used to doing it. And of course, always monitor yourself and make sure that you adjust as needed, okay? It's okay to do that. If something is not working and you've given it enough time, it's time to move on and come up with something else, okay? Kelly, how to find strategies? Kelly, I just gave you a couple strategies, right, when we went through this? So I don't know if I understand your question there. And what I've done here, so if you want to just clarify what you mean by that, that would be great. Oh, find alternative strategies. Well, you know, something you can go to our website, all right, and look and see what strategies are there. There's a time management, let me see if I can show you. All right, hold on. Oops, hold on a second here. Okay, under the My ESC and then there's a green tab called Learning Support. If you scroll down, okay, under Resources, pardon me, there's some study skills. There's academic reading, so on and so forth. If you scroll down to Time Management, okay, there's lots of other resources that you can find, okay? And some of those resources take you somewhere else, okay? And there are books in the library that you can look at that might give you different strategies. You can go to different college websites. Sometimes they have a lot of their time management materials online. We do offer a time management course, by the way. It's a accredited course. Dr. Shipman runs the conducts that course, so you can do that, and she gives you different strategies. So there's tons of information here on this particular website, on our website. I just pushed that out to everybody too in the chat area if you want to bookmark that. That's an important tab, by the way, to become familiar with. Okay. So for broader assistance, I'm just mentioning this. I don't know if anybody has taken this. I know it was in the orientation, but Smarter Measure basically assesses your online readiness. And you understand yourself a little bit more. This just lists the services offered by the college for all Empire State College students, whether you're a CDL student or a center student. And then there's some Angel help. So if you're having a hard time with Angel, there are some resources out there, some tutorials too, to help you. My biggest advice with Angel is don't complicate it. Okay, just understand what you need to do and don't overcomplicate it. Okay. Then there's another resource which does cost money, but I think financial aid actually can cover this. These are individual modules. What it does is assesses your reading, writing, and math skills. So we talked about preparation. Instead of jumping into a stats course when you really haven't taken math in maybe 20 years, stats might not be the best place to start. But if you're not sure, you can actually purchase the math skills modules, $33 I believe, and it assesses your math skills, and it also gives you exercises to increase those skills where you might be weak in, but it will also identify those skills that you're actually strong in. And the same goes for the reading and writing. So I guess worth looking into. Maybe talk to your mentor about it, because your mentor knows about, it's called My Foundations Lab, okay? Let me see here. I want to thank you for this great workshop. Learn a lot. You're welcome, Anna. I took something like that when I first got to ESC. It was free. Yes. Okay. It probably was Smarter Measure. I know My Foundations Lab is new. We just added it, I think, about 6 months ago. Same thing about the writing skills. Okay. The Smarter Measure, I believe, looks at the writing skills, but then these modules in the My Foundations Lab does provide some feedback, not feedback, but assessments on your skills, and will provide you exercises to increase those writing skills. If you feel that you need some brushing up on your writing skills, there is, Intro to College Writing. There's Intro to College Reading and Writing as well. You might want to talk to your mentor about that. Those are great courses. Okay. And then I just did a little cheat sheet for you all. From an academic standpoint, academic support standpoint, I mentioned the Learning Support tab, which I did push out that link. I run the peer tutoring program. If I can find you a tutor for a particular subject or topic, I will try to do that. Those tutors are actual students that have taken a course. They've done very well, and they're there to help you. We also have a writing coach, but you also have Smart Thinking as well, which is a free online tutoring service that covers a multitude of topics, as well as will review your writing and provide you some feedback. We have a coaching program as well, so if you are new to Empire State College and you feel you need just a little help with some of your time management, organizational, maybe navigating Angel, basically, acclimating you to the online environment, we do have coaches. Those are students as well. And then, of course, I mentioned the library link, and then my contact information. And then another site that I find very useful is Khan Academy. Let me see here. I'm gonna bring this up to you guys, because I really think that this is a not everybody knows about this. And come on up. You might have seen it on the news. 60 Minutes, had a piece on Khan Academy. It is now, Bill Gates from Microsoft has, provided some funding for this as well. But as you can see, there's like 3,200 educational videos. They're very short. They're not fancy, but they do cover a wide variety of subjects. So math, say for instance, you've got algebra, geometry, trig, problem stats, pre-calc, calc, so on and so forth. Science, you've got biology, chemistry. Finance, you've got microeconomics and macroeconomics. You've got some other core finance, concepts, humanities, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to push this out to you as well. I would bookmark this one, and I would review it. I know a lot of the students that have used this site, they very much found it useful. Okay. Could you please provide that link for all those help pages? Yes, actually I can do that right now, or if you like the PowerPoint presentation, well, let me just do it if we have time. It's 5 after 7, so you'll get the presentation tomorrow unless you want me to push those out to you right now. Let's see here. Okay, so this is the peer tutoring. I just pushed that one out. Okay, that will tell you how to find a peer tutor. The writing coach is just an email. Okay. Yeah, you should get this tomorrow along with a recorded link, along with a PowerPoint presentation, and then bookmark all of those. But a lot of those can be found right on the website, the library. Most of these can all be found under the Learning Support tab, quite honestly. Okay. So I know we covered a lot of information here. Yes, there's a lot to learn. And I would be happy to talk to anybody about an area that you might be struggling with or you want to talk about it a little bit more. I know time management seems like this big, huge thing to accomplish, but, start it a little bit, incorporate maybe one strategy and try it. And then when you're comfortable, maybe apply another strategy. But feel free, definitely, to please either call me or email me. Look for the email tomorrow. All that information will be there, okay? Matter of fact, I'll put my email here. And my phone number. Is right there. And I apologize, it's been kind of crazy here, so if I don't get back to you the same day, I haven't forgotten about you, okay? Just make sure when you do leave me a message, tell me why you're calling and, what your question is or what you need help with, okay? And that will be helpful. And your name, obviously, and a phone number, that would be great. So any other questions or comments or anything that you want to share today? When we are asked to read 5 or 6 chapters, should we be reading word for word for skimming or looking for things really? Okay, well, did you attend that reading strategy workshop today? Out of curiosity? No. Okay, I'm going to send you. Matter of fact, I'm going to make a note. I'm going to send you that recording. Okay, but this is my approach. There's no way, okay, you can read 5 to 6 chapters in a short period of time. Okay, it's very difficult to do. So again, this comes down to priorities. Personally, we say don't read from cover to end or cover to the end. You want to skim it. You want to look for certain keywords, but you want to understand your assignment first, okay, before you start reading. You want to actually write down what you think you know about the topic, because we all come, okay, to the table with some type of knowledge about a broad list of subjects and topics, okay? So you write some of that down, and you might want to be formulating how you think you might be, okay, I'm going to approach that. And then what I would do is look at those chapters, skim those chapters for titles, anything that's highlighted, subtitles, so on and so forth. Go to the end of each chapter, look at the summary, because there's nothing wrong with that. That's not cheating. Okay, you might want to even look at the table of contents as well as the index and look at that. Okay, and then you might want to start reading. You might not necessarily have to read every single chapter, every single page. Okay, so hopefully that helps. Okay, Amia, yes, you did attend it. Great. Okay. Yes, you know something? What I'll do is I'll send everybody here today, I will send you guys the reading strategy link, or the recording today, all right? I suggest when we do it again, see if you can attend it. It happened during the afternoon, so that's probably why you didn't receive it. Okay, so I taught a lot of reading effectiveness as well as quick reading. Oh, great. Can you send me the link? I will definitely do that, Pat. I will do that, Michael. So everybody's going to get that recording as well. Yeah, I can understand that. Reading too much. I personally would not read every single word. I don't think it's necessary. And if you're really short on time, I think sometimes you can skip, you know, you can miss some things. And sometimes chapters are not really answering the assignment. It's there. You know, I know when I took a business ethics course, there was a couple chapters that I personally decided to just skip because they really didn't apply to what the assignment was. But I did go back and read them at a later date, okay? So, but please don't take it that I'm saying don't read your textbook. I think you can come up with some strategies, okay, how to best read, okay, and comprehend your textbook, okay? Okay. So, I will send everybody that link. All right, well, you're welcome. I hope this was helpful. When you receive the link, both links, you're going to see for both links, today's link and or tonight's link as well as today's link, the PowerPoint presentations for both. You're also going to get a survey, and I'm asking if you could please just take that survey. It takes about 5 minutes, if that. I would like some feedback. Would like to see what you would like in the future when it comes to these type of workshops. If this time worked for you, if you would like to have it at another time, I can't promise, but I'll do the best I possibly can. All right? Okay. Well, everybody have a lovely evening. I really do appreciate everybody's time. If you, again, need to follow up with me, I am in the office tomorrow. So you all have a good night, too. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome.